I have Brian Wang back again. I know
Oh,
you're like, is this going to be a regular duo? Is it just always going to be you and Brian? Well, no, as you'll probably see, I'm having a whole bunch of guests on this weekend because we want to all talk about what's coming up with the earnings call. But I'm not going to ask Brian about the earnings call right now unless he wants to talk about it. I'm having Brian on today to talk about what you've cared about so much for so many years, Robotaxi, and why he's all of a sudden really enthusiastic about Robotaxi. Brian, great to have you back on the show.
great to be back, Randy.
Okay, so this is Randy Kirk. As he just mentioned, he had half the name and the other half's Kirk. And if you didn't know who that was, I've been doing this now for about 160 episodes. Go back and look at some of the old episodes. I think you'll be shocked at how prescient they are or how still useful they are. And then like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. And then follow Brian on the next big future. I always confuse that, Brian. I don't know why. The nextbigfuture.com, which is an amazing science blog. And then hit both of us up on our Patreons. All that information will be below. Brian, I didn't know. See, I thought I knew everything about everything Tesla, that you have had some epiphanies over the last 2 weeks about AI and how it potentially relates to Robotaxi. So I'm going to let you talk. I have no idea what you got to say. So I'm going to be the audience here. Go for it.
So, I did part of a master's degree in computer science on AI back many decades ago. And I want to say how many decades ago. In the 80s, but the fundamental AI technology got refined, but the principles were there, right? And so I've been, of course, keeping up with all that by talking to all the AI scientists and leaders and stuff like that. And of course, recently it's just exploded. I've written over 30 articles in the last 2 weeks on what's happening with AI. It's like huge things that are happening every day.
And so those articles would all be on nextbigfuture.com.
Right, nextbigfuture.com. That's right. And the kind of stuff that's happening is like, 3 weeks ago, okay, ChatGPT 4, it's a huge thing, and it can beat 90% of law students taking the LSAT. It can do all that kind of stuff. So which is like, get 1,400 plus on SAT scores, do 99% of the medical tests, right? So it's got huge capability, right? But then this next week, they say, well, the next big thing is using it with the Pinecone and LangChain. Pinecone is now a company worth $700 million. It uses what's called vector databases. So take the information that within ChatGPT, because they convert it into vectors, the numbers and weights and stuff into vectors, and then it can take, like, you can load in, PDF of a book, of your book, my book, whatever, and of science journals, load that into that. So basically you can cram. So it can, instead of just taking, I boiled down the entire internet, I'm going to cram on this section before I answer your question. And it can load up like, a few gigabytes of data, which would be like thousands of books, into that thing. So it can be an expert, PhD expert on this one subject, right? So, but then the week after that, so working Pinecone, working LangChain, there's other things to automate and do stuff. Then you have Auto GPT and Baby AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and Jarvis from Microsoft. But basically they say, we'll take that stuff, use ChatGPT, have it enhanced with Pinecone, and then we're going to have it do series of questions. So not just one question, but give it one question and it thinks about the next question and then starts planning out a series of complicated tasks. Still early days, still, flawed,
but absolutely miraculous in what it can do.
Right.
And the sad part that it was the first time for me yesterday where I was asking a series of questions and I was like, okay, here's what I want. And it gave me something. And I said, well, no, I really wanted it this way. And I said it with a little tone. And it answered me by saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted it that way.
Right.
It didn't have to say it was sorry. I mean, it was like so personal. Oh, a little scary. Right. Go ahead.
So the other thing is that there's things called scaling laws about how much, as I dump in more compute and more whatever, more data, then how good does ChatGPT 5 get by the end of the year, right? And it's going to be very, very good, and it'll be with improved algorithm and all these 1,000 companies funded by all these VCs, $10 billion going into this thing, in this land grab race to improve it, add in the components to make it better, right? And so this is all going to explode in there, right? So how does that translate over to Tesla? Tesla is the only one with 4 million rolling computers sucking up data about roads and updating that. They're the only ones, with a supercomputer, two supercomputers, one NVIDIA supercomputer, one Dojo supercomputer on the training side of things. And, they are going to, put that into Tesla Bot and into the FSD thing. And all the FSD, full self-driving systems, are now fully neural net systems, which is neural nets are the basis of these things. So the data, the compute, the drive, the programmers, and the system that is rapidly improving in all other ways, that we're seeing this huge wave, and Tesla's going to ride the physical wave of making FSD better, right? And then they can tap into what they use to solve the lane, how I turn, how to switch into whatever lane to turn. That was the language of lanes, which they said we were using generative AI, which is the kind of AI they're using for ChatGPT, which Karpathy was knowing about, which he switched over to OpenAI, but still the other people who are still there still know all this stuff. So thus as we see ChatGPT and other systems get 10x, 100x better, 10x better this year, 100x better by next year, how does that not get us to full robotaxi next year, right? And not just us Tesla bulls saying this kind of thing. There's a guy called Dr. Alan Thompson, who does a lot of YouTube videos as well, and has his channel, lifearchitect.io or something like that. He's saying we will get to AGI, artificial general intelligence, where computers and robots can do most things that humans can within 36 months. That's his conservative projection, 36 months. He advises governments, he advises all the big companies. He's got thousands of subscribers, paying a lot more than the people pay us for the analysis. That he says 36 months is his conservative date for when that happens. So he says we're halfway there, 48% there on his AGI tracker, his conservative AGI tracker, and he puts in whatever Microsoft did, whatever Anthropic, AI did, or what OpenAI did, and he has 3 other things how we get to 80%, within the next 12 to 24 months. If you listen to him, he says it's basically 12 to 24 months, maybe even 12. That the 68% things are basically saying Tesla bot works. Right? Basically, it doesn't quite say that. It's the human AI, he includes Tesla bot, he includes some other robot things, Google robot, whatever, right? But basically he's saying Tesla bot works. Tesla bot can go into a room and do what Steve Wozniak challenge of go get a coffee, go do stuff, wander around a room completely, right? So not only does FSD get solved, but Tesla bot gets solved in a huge way within 24 months, 36 months, worst case, not from Brian saying that, but from Dr. Alan Thompson, who gets, funding and support from, British government, Australian government, U.S. government, and consults to, Cisco, Intel, Google, used to do stuff for Franklin Weber, the other guy. So, someone who's done a lot of stuff, right, and has been all focused on AI, not for Tesla, saying Tesla bot and basically FSD will work.
So I had a question that I wanted to put up on the saytechnology.com channel to ask at earnings day next week, but I got sidetracked by a client problem. The question was, what is in the way? What are the factors that are keeping full self-driving from going to level 5? When they asked the question about the battery line, they were quick to say, look, it's just engineering. It's just getting it to go faster. We don't see any major hurdles. We just have to keep doing what we're doing. It'll go faster and faster. And at some point we'll have it fully ramped. I would love to have that question answered next week,
Mhm.
this time about full self-driving. Do you have a clue? Do you have a theory as to what you think is keeping it from being able to be, able to do those last edge things, or to be able to do everything that does more consistently?
Yeah, so it's the March of Nines that they talked about. I think all the people using the 11.3.6 now, and like every week we've got a dot release coming out. And so that's also the speed of improvement. So this AI wave that I talked about, it's also improving the speed of coding. So there's Codium, there's Copilot, where basically you can 10x the speed of your programmers, not the productivity. So not only the machines getting faster, but the programmers who program the machine, they're getting faster, right? So I don't think there's anything stopping it. Now that they've got the full stack re-architected to neural nets, then all the improvement speed should all be accelerating ahead. And so what do they need? They need to have some planning, which planning and memory, that's something that was developed for the systems that are coming out from the other companies. They have a planning system, and they can add memory, a memory stream for it for simulated agents. So all the stuff that lets them simulate better, test better, program faster, that's all happening. So the exponential curve is going like that in terms of every aspect: training, coding, error correction, testing of it, simulating. All of it's gone faster. So if anything is a problem, it's going to be a problem for like 2 months, and then it's going to be fixed, because 3 more miracles will come in and they'll just toss it in there. So that's I don't see where it caps out, where it can't reach the full robotaxi level.
Right. All right. And of course, this is another one of those cases where I don't think there are many doubters anymore that this is achievable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so then it only comes down to when.
Right.
People in the past have talked about it being a problem of, gosh, you got to be the first one out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Steve and Mark Ryan, you and others have said it doesn't matter if Tesla's the first to have level 5, because if they're the second to have level 5, they'll already have 3 or 4 million vehicles capable of doing it on the road, and they'll have another couple of 3 million per year being made, and nobody has even close to a plan to make 100,000 a year. So the ramp would be years and years ahead of anybody else that might do it.
So the other issue is that for the other guys, for the other approach, is that like the China companies like Apollo, which is a subsidiary of Baidu, I think, they have some most aggressive plan. They're going to have most aggressive plan. They're going to have 100,000 robotaxis out, a few years, get to 1 million or whatever like that. You need to have 1 million to get to Uber scale, right? And then, but the other thing is that if I need 100,000 of the Apollo vehicles, then I need 800,000 LiDAR. They have 8 LiDAR per system, and they also have a bunch of, millimeter radar and all that kind of stuff. They load it up with sensors. They view that as a strength. But then there's a scaling problem, because last year there was only like 100,000 industrial grade LiDAR. Manufactured total world. So, but the thing is, if I have 80 companies, there are 80 companies making LiDAR, right? I have to have my company, the one that's sourcing me, with 800,000 LiDAR. The fact that there's 80 companies all producing, say, 8 million LiDAR, if the 1 or 2 companies that are supplying me aren't making my LiDAR, because I can't swap out my LiDARs and give them to whatever, right? Then I still don't get to 100,000, right? And then, so even my software, I ride the AI wave, and then I solve the software problem. If my software, depending upon that hardware, and that hardware is not there, I cannot scale, right? So if I'm going to make 1 million robotaxis get to Uber scale, I need 8 million LiDAR, right? So are the factories planned for that? Have they paid, someone paid $2 billion, $5 billion to make a factory for that LiDAR, right? And is it going to be up and running and producing? And then I got to stick that component in and make it work in my system, right? So their thing is, they got like 2,000 robotaxis for the biggest guys like Waymo and and then a China thing, right? But then in some cities, and they're still being booted off to downtown because they're causing traffic jams like that. Right. So fine, maybe the software suddenly explodes, but they have the other bottleneck of the hardware.
Right.
And they also get permission, all that other stuff.
Right.
Where Tesla can just roll it all out. And I think also all the people who say that, okay, we'll have to make the dedicated robotaxis, they will start with an Airbnb model where they say, okay, you have your Tesla, come into our network, we'll use it 80 or 50% of the time that you're not using it, and then we'll pay you money, right? So make money on it. So then also the sales explode, because then if you pay Tesla a subscription of $200 a month plus half of the profits, you can now make $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month from your FSD. You can be in the taxi business, right? Yeah. So all of that stuff for robotaxi and robo-trucking, because the truck getting the half the cost out of the trucks will also be huge, right? Sure. Even bigger economically.
Right.
Then, and thing is, so AI explosion, end of this year, next year, probably next year, right? And if things have gone 10 times faster, Q1 becomes like 3 years. So every year becomes like dog years or whatever like that of development. So it's like, oh, it's Q3. So it would have taken us 6 years longer, but now everything's 10 times faster. And so we're there, right? So every quarter delay, it's like, should be happening, right? And then it's getting to really, really insanely good means that, the wife who's nervous about it, the person who's nervous about it, suddenly they want it, right? Because it's the drive experience is so good and the insurance saving. So I'm now a AI maximalist on Tesla for FSD and for Tesla bot. Both will work for sure 2026, and I think 2024, 2025. So yes, we're exponential. Things take a bit longer this quarter, next quarter. So what if the huge prizes are only, 18 months to 36 months away?
Right. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Brian, thank you again so much for being on the show. Remember to subscribe to his channel. You still have a YouTube channel, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Still have a YouTube channel, Next Big Future. Yeah.
Okay. Next Big Future
and Twitter,
the blog, and follow him on Twitter. All that information will be below. Same thing for me. You know what to do. And Brian is been on the show or going to be on the show. Watch for Brian. So that's why you need to hit the notify button. Brian, thank you again. This is Randy Kirk, and it's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.